Is lethality Jhin back? Now that Duskblade is nerfed, there are some sleeper bruiser builds popping up on Rengar. Welcome back everyone to another edition of the new OP builds, where we bring you guys 10 setups that are on the rise for patch 13.20. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video, or click the link in the description below. With the buffs to Ghostblade this patch, one top lane champion who's extremely underrated with the item that you need to be running it on is Urgot. By rushing Ghostblade on Urgot, you have incredibly strong burst power on that one item spike. This will catch the enemy off guard because they'll have likely never played against an Urgot who's rushing lethality. The movement speed active from Ghostblade is absolutely amazing for the champion as well, and the core reason to why you should be picking it up. Urgot's biggest weakness is that he's just not super mobile, so the movement speed helps massively to stick onto targets and kite around in fights. Now, after building Ghostblade, you transition into Bruiser with Black Cleaver 2nd and Sterix 3rd. This way, you'll still be nice and durable for the later stages of the game, but your snowball potential in the early game rises so much more by going Ghostblade. The rune page is press the attack with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand, grab Bone Plating and Overgrowth for secondaries. This next feature is not actually going to be centered around a build, and instead, focus on a rune setup. Jax is a champion who primarily runs lethal tempo, but for 13.20, you should highly consider swapping over to Grasp. Grasp has been extremely undervalued on Jax in recent patches, really only run by high elo Jax players, but it has had a 2% better win rate than lethal tempo. This is before the lethal tempo nerfs, so we can imagine that gap becoming even greater moving forward. It's the Koreans specifically that really like Grasp on their Jax, as they have been taking it in 35% of games. On the flip side, NA and EU Jax players only run the rune in about 16% of games. What Grasp is going to enable is for those quick trades to become much more powerful early on in lane. With lethal tempo, you've got to stack it up, so unless you're going for an all-in, Grasp is going to provide more consistent strength throughout the early levels. So for the complete rune page, it's Grasp with Demolish, Second Wind, and Unflinching, followed by Biscuits and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. Build is standard stuff with Divine Sunderer into Spear of Shojin 2nd and Zanya's 3rd. With Duskblade being hit with a few nerfs for 13.20, a really interesting build to try on Rengar consists of Divine Sunderer into Spear of Shojin. The raw one-shot strength from this build won't be as high as lethality, but your skirmish and extended fight power shoots up tremendously. Divine and Spear actually synergize really nice with each other as well. Spear drastically lowers the cooldowns of your basic abilities, which in turn allows you to get the most value possible out of the Spellblade procs from Divine Sunderer. This build is going to be especially powerful when you're going up against a comp that is slightly tankier. If the enemy team does not have multiple squishy champions, then building lethality is going to be a bit trickier to execute. With this Bruiser build, you'll still burst out squishy champions when ahead, but you'll have a much easier time dealing with more durable targets. So for the 3-item core, it's Divine Sunderer into Spear of Shojin 2nd and Ravenous Hydra 3rd. For the rune page, it's Fleet Footwork for the Keystone rune with Overheal, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Eyeball Collection and Ingenious Hunter are the best secondaries. Lethality Briar had been popping off with Duskblade in 13.19, but now that the item is nerfed for 13.20, there's a new adaptation to the build you have to try. Eclipse Briar has been performing equally as well as Duskblade over the past patch, but very few players have been picking it up. Eclipse actually works amazing with Briar because it's so easy to proc the passive, while the movement speed you get from the proc really helps you stick right onto your target. The armor pen potential you have by running Eclipse is completely nuts as well. Second item in the build path will be the Collector, but then you'll grab Black Cleaver 3rd. Eclipse in combination with Black Cleaver offers an immense amount of armor shred and will have Briar dealing near true damage against the target she's attacking. It's just a great mix of everything from this setup. The Duskblade build was full out squishy, which leaves little margin for error, but with Eclipse and Black Cleaver, you still have plenty of damage while being way more durable. Rune page to run with this setup is Halo Blades, followed by Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter. Best secondaries are Overheal and Alacrity. A really interesting new build for Syndra that high elo players have been leaning towards as of recent is Cosmic Drive as a core purchase. It's a max ability haste focused build, as you are rushing Leandries, going Lucidity Boots, picking up Cosmic Drive 2nd, and taking Transcendence in runes. With all of these combined, you'll have a grand total of 85 haste, and if you include the added 20 haste for Q that you get from having rank 2 ultimate, Q will receive 105 haste. This means Syndra Q will drop to a 3.4 second cooldown, while her ultimate will be on a mere 54 second cooldown. Syndra R dropping to that low of a cooldown is massive, as her consistent catch power shoots up drastically. The constant stuns throughout an extended fight can be incredibly influential as well, with Syndra E dropping to a 9-second cooldown with all the haste. Remember, the new passive on Cosmic Drive provides you with movement speed when you hit an ability, so the consistent kiting power of this setup is incredible as well. That's always been something that Syndra has lacked, movement speed to help with her lack of gap closer, and Cosmic Drive provides exactly that. For the complete 3-item core, it's a Leandries Rush and Cosmic Drive 2nd, and then Rabadon's 3rd. First strike is the Keystone rune with Free Boots, Dematerializer, and Cosmic Insight. Insight, run Mana Flow and Transcendence for secondaries. There's going to be a shift in priority for Qiyana builds here in 13.20, as you'll want to drop Duskblade and go back to building Ghostblade. Burst power of Ghostblade is going up, while the burst power of Duskblade is going down, and you're also losing some haste from Duskblade too, so there's much less of a reason to prioritize Duskblade. Ghostblade as a whole is going to offer you way more raw snowball power for solo queue, because the movement speed active and out of combat movement speed help immensely when it comes down to flanking, rotating to fights, or just catching out targets. When you get ahead early on, the ability for you to extend that lead becomes very easy on Ghostblade completion. The core build that you should be looking to run on Qiyana is a Ghostblade Rush into Prowler's Claw 2nd and Cyrilda's Grudge 3rd. For the rune page, it's Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Pick up Presence of Mind and Last Stand for secondaries. Static Shiv has been the craze on Vayne for many months now, but there's actually a new setup that has started seeing a ton of success over the past patch. Instead of rushing Static Shiv, it's Stormrazor that is winning at a crazy rate right now in its place. So, why is this the case all of a sudden? Well, we have to remember that Static Shiv has now been nerfed multiple times, while Stormrazor was actually just buffed. It's really not that Static Shiv is a terrible rush option now. It's still completely viable, but Stormrazor is a great alternative in certain situations. Storm is going to be way more powerful for you when it comes down to dueling. It's not only going to deal more damage than Static Shiv, but the bonus movement speed amplifies Vayne's kiting power even further. It's pretty ridiculous how much bonus movement speed you're able to obtain with the 2-item core of Stormrazor and Trinity Force. If you are in a game where the enemy comp has a ton of dive and you just need as much kiting power as possible, side with Stormrazor. If you feel like the enemy comp is pretty easy to play into and has more low mobility champs, side with Shiv. For the rune page, it's going to be Lethal Tempo with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Run Conditioning and Overgrowth for secondaries. Lethality Jhin has been making a comeback in 13.19, and it's going to become even better for 13.20. With Jhin having his R damage increase in 13.19, it makes going for a lethality setup much more attractive. Some players have been running Duskblade in 13.19, but with the item changes this patch, you'll definitely want to be prioritizing Ghostblade. Second item will be the Collector, and then you have some options for the third pickup. Rapid Fire Cannon is pretty standard, but Axiom Arc is a bit of a sleeper pickup. After all, Lethality Jhin has way more power coming out of his R, so having the spell on as short a cooldown as possible by building Axiom Arc can work really well. Now, as for the rune page, instead of running the more common fleet footwork, Dark Harvest will fit in really nice here. Dark Harvest has some great synergy with lethality because it makes finishing off those low health targets with your R and snipes with W a bit easier. A very niche support champion that has been garnering some attention as of recent and is looking quite strong is Sylas. With about 50,000 games over the past patch, Sylas support is sitting around a 51% win rate, which is very respectable. Sylas is traditionally played in the mid lane, but he has some sneaky good power in the support role against champions with powerful ultimates. Sylas support is playing very well into the likes of Pyke, Zyra, Zillion, and Nico, as his skirmish at level 6 is very potent when stealing those ultimates. The champ even fares quite well into other melee supports like Blitz, Nautilus, and Leona. Skill order will be the exact same as what you run on mid lane Sylas, with W first, E second, and Q last. The build may not be what you'd expect for a support champion, as it's very offensive with a Night Harvester rush into Shadowflame second and Zanya's third. Rune page is similar to what we see on Jungle Sylas, as you'll be taking Dark Harvest for the Keystone rune. Primary runes to follow are Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Treasure Hunter. For secondaries, you should be running Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight. There are so many viable Senna builds that you can play right now, but one that you should put a lot more priority on for 13.20 is Ghostblade. Even prior to the buffs this patch, Ghostblade has been Senna's highest win rate mythic item. It makes a lot of sense because the champion is very squishy and vulnerable, so any kind of added movement speed or kiting power goes a long way in keeping her safe. You still want to be rushing the Umbral Glaive, as it's just too good of an item to pass up on in most cases. Ghostblade will be slotted in second, and then Rapid Fire Cannon is what works best third. It's not just the buffs to Ghostblade that are going to make Senna a more enticing pick this patch. With the buffs to starting items making them more tanky and the anti-snowball mechanics being introduced, we expect Senna to be one of the best solo queue supports. Rune page to run with this build is Fleet Footwork, followed by Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Cutdown. Grab Biscuits and Approach Velocity for secondaries. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. Alright everyone, that's going to be all for this one. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you back soon.